Hello everybody, this is Howie Jacobson with a Checkmate Method webinar on 23rd October 2012. Thank you all for attending. I see folks are still coming in, but we're going to get started as it is top of the hour. I want to begin by introducing our guinea pig on the hot seat today. Joseph, are you there?
Yes, Howie, how are you?
Very well. Thanks for participating. We're gonna get to your business and your competitive landscape in just a couple of minutes. So right now, let's jump right in. So I want to thank everybody for taking the time for this. So the promise is to dominate your market with game over advertising, and we're going to look at two aspects of the Checkmate method. And there are, I would estimate, about 7 or 8 or 9 different elements of Checkmate, but we're looking at the very basics. This is how I began teaching this stuff, gosh, over four years ago. So let's jump right in. So if you don't know who I am, I'm the author of now 3 editions of Google AdWords for Dummies, and I came to this Checkmate work via AdWords. It was a way for me to make sense of the Google search results page so that I could look at the page and quickly figure out what was going on here. I don't know if any of you have this experience where you're told, well, you should see what your competitor's doing. So you go type in your main keyword, you go look at Google, and it's just like, oh, they're all there. They're all saying something, they're all kind of saying the same thing, but you really don't have a tool to exactly figure out what's going on and where, more importantly, are the hidden opportunities. Where are people missing important things they could be saying? So that's what we're going to look at today, but I have to emphasize, not for the last time, that this is not just for AdWords. I plug it into AdWords for a bunch of reasons, mostly because it's a really easy place to write quick copy and do quick tests, but this belongs anywhere you are competing for customers. In any sort of competitive landscape where you're not the only voice, this stuff works. So that said, quickly, the Google search results page is the picnic at the Wilk Estates at the beginning of Gone with the Wind. The lady on the left, the beautiful Scarlett O'Hara, the belle of the ball, everybody loves her. All the young men want to marry her. And at the party on the right, you can see they're all there trying to gain her attention, curry her favor, do whatever she wants them to do for her. And they all look the same. They all dress the same. They've got the same facial expression, the same hairstyle, and they all jump when she wants to, you know, get a piece of cake. They all go and jump for her to do that. So. She ends up, of course, not with any of them. She's utterly bored by all those fellas because they're all the same. She has no means of distinguishing, and that is the Google search results page. Scarlett O'Hara is your prospect, and you are all your competitors are the guys trying to get her attention. And as long as everyone is doing the same thing, as long as everyone is doing best practices, I have no doubt that all these young men are following best courtship practices of antebellum South, but because they're all doing the same thing, she can't decide. And of course, she ends up with the scoundrel Rhett Butler, who arguably is the worst possible mate for her, but he ended up getting her just because he was different. He was fascinating. He wasn't saying the same old things and acting the same old way as everybody else. So the big problem here is how to cut through the clutter while being relevant and appealing to your ideal customer. Because, you know, any one of these guys could have shown up, you know, on a Harley with a mohawk and a tattoo, and that sure would have been different. But in 1853 Georgia, Atlanta, that wasn't going to fly. So you've got to learn how to be different while being relevant and appealing, arguably more appealing than your prospects. So in this webinar, we're going to cover Checkmate, how it works. Joseph is going to join us for an example, and if you hang on till the end, this is a promo webinar for a course that I'm teaching, an online home study and online live course that begins November 6th. So, you know, the idea is this is a free sample, and it's about 1/9 of the whole course. If you like this, you should love the rest of it. So I will be sharing that early bird offer with you. So Checkmate is choice architecture. It means writing your ad so that it is more appealing than any of the other ads to your prospect, which means we have to look at the other ads, and that's where the matrix comes in. So I'm not going to go into this slide very much except to say there's 4 different levels at which we can distinguish ourselves from our competitors, and we're probably going to look at levels 2 and 3 today. That's typically how it goes in an introductory session. There are ways to do it tactically, and the end goal is the visionary approach, where your ads become so good they actually outstrip what you're offering, so you kind of reconfigure your business to overcome all competition because you're going to do things they haven't thought of or they're unwilling to do. But right now, typically in these quick sessions, we end up with a lot of 2 and a little bit of 3. So here's what I want you to understand. Keywords are compressed desires. So here's a scene from Star Trek IV, The Voyage Home. The crew of the Enterprise has just arrived back on late 20th century Earth, like circa 1985, and Scotty, the engineer, is trying to talk to the computer because he wants it to do stuff for him. He goes, "Computer, computer," and it won't respond. So Bones says, pick up the mouse. So he picks it up and thinks it's a microphone and starts speaking into it. Computer, computer, doesn't work. Finally, in disgust, he picks up the keyboard and starts typing. And that's how we are with Google. We don't want to go, if you have a problem, if all of a sudden you wake up one morning and your house has water on the floor and you can hear water running, but you go and check all the pipes and there's nothing running, no one left anything on, none of the toilet tanks are misbehaving, but you have this seeping water and you can hear it and you can smell it and you can feel it, and you start to panic, you really want to talk to someone about that. You want to say, oh my gosh, there's water all over my floor, I can hear water running, it sounds like it's coming from like underneath the house, I don't know what to do. Google doesn't let you do that. Google wants you to say a couple of words: leak detection, leak repair, water under slab. You've got to compress everything you want to say, all your fears, all your desires, all your hopes, all your dreams, into just a couple of words. So knowing that, as an advertiser, you must realize that every keyword represents some long story, some long desire compressed. And so what we're going to do for most of this time is help Joseph decompress that keyword for his ideal customer. By ideal customer, I mean the one in the middle, the perfect fit. If that big circle is all the people who are searching for a particular keyword, not all of them are right for him. Not all of the people who could use you should use you. You may have different philosophy than some of your prospects. You may be more expensive. You may be premium and they need cheap. You may teach them how to do it themselves and they want someone to do it for them. So for all sorts of reasons, people who are searching for what you got are not equally qualified to use your services. So we're talking about the perfect fit people, the one right in the center who, when you think of them, you say, yes, those are the people I want to help. And you get agita if you think about them actually working with your competitors. So if you're doing search engine optimization, it doesn't matter. You just go for all of them. But in this case, we're doing AdWords. We have to pay for each of the clicks. So we're going to teach you how to do game over ads, which are going to do 3 things. They're going to attract to that ideal customer, that little green dot in the center. They're going to repel or at least be invisible to everyone else so you don't get clicks from people who shouldn't be buying from you. And it's going to prepare your ideal customer for the landing page on your website, because if it doesn't, if they're expecting something and they come to your website and they don't see it, they've just cost you money and they've spent 4 seconds on your website and they're going back for another search. And if they cost you, $1 and they spend 4 seconds on your website, that, you don't want to think about what the hourly rate of their time is that you just spent. So if the game over ads attract more of the right people, that increases the right click-through rate. If it attracts fewer of the wrong people, it lowers the wrong click-through rate, which means you can improve your website conversion rate without doing anything to your website, just by sending a better qualified people to that website. So that's why it's an extremely, extremely powerful leverage point in the whole search funnel. So let's now talk about how Checkmate works. And Joseph should be stretching, so we can hit the ground running in just a couple of minutes. So you're going to start with a keyword. And it could be your main keyword, one you're interested in, one that you think has the most potential. You'll probably end up doing this several times for lots of different keywords, so it really doesn't matter which one you pick as long as it has some business impact. Second thing is you're going to matrix the competition by looking at the Google search results page and filling out a simple worksheet. And then you're going to create an ideal customer avatar. You're going to put number 2 and 3 together, the competition and the avatar together, and you're going to exploit the gaps that you'll see. And this will become very clear very, very soon. So before we jump in, just a second reminder that this is not just for Google Ads. This is anywhere you need to place your message so that you are the most attractive option to your ideal customers. It could be landing pages, anywhere on the landing page, anywhere on the website, in your follow-up emails, anywhere, banner ads, ads in other people's email newsletters, Facebook ads, anywhere offline, tattoos, the bat signal, anywhere that people could see your message in competition with something else, this is where you can use this. So again, today we're just going to be looking at ad writing because it's the quickest and easiest thing we could take a look at. So we're going to start with a keyword. In this case, the keyword is leak detection and repair. So Joseph, with that, let's bring you in and have you introduce yourself and your business very briefly, and then we'll go from there.
Hello, everyone. This is Joseph Gardner, and I'm calling from Southern California. And just a little bit about me. Been in the plumbing business.
If you could speak up a teeny bit, that would help.
Okay. I'm getting a little echo. So anyway, just a little about me. I've been in the plumbing industry for the last 35 years, and just recently in the last 5 years, specialized in leak detection and repair. And there's 2 different approaches to doing it.
So what is leaked? Tell us what you told me earlier about what that means.
What that basically means is, as a homeowner, all of a sudden you're aware that you have moisture on your floor. You thought maybe someone spilled something, and you wipe it up, and all of a sudden it reappears. And obviously I have a leak, and that's a concern of mine because now I need somebody to repair it. I've got this beautiful marble floor. I'm afraid of, the possibilities of, demoing my home, tearing up my floor, tearing up my marble, etc. And so I need someone to come in and address that, and address it in such a way that, basically they're not going to tear apart my home to find the problem and remedy it.
Okay, great. So now we're going to be interactive for a while. So anyone has questions at this point for Joseph, you can just type them in the question box, and I will go read them and choose anything that I think is relevant right now. So someone gets up one day, you're in Orange County, California, right?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. And all the houses there are built on slabs. There's no basements. So so somebody has, when they built the house, they ran pipes under the slab?
Correct. Basically, it's kind of like you trench the soil and put the pipes in the soil before pouring the concrete slab. Okay.
Just out of curiosity, are houses still built that way? It seems like a pretty inaccessible method of putting in your piping.
Yeah, it's very, very common here when you don't have a basement. With a basement, all of your plumbing will be exposed, but this way your plumbing isn't exposed. Okay,
got it. All right, so now we're going to go to the Google search results page for Joseph's keyword, which is leak detection and repair. And you can see here I got the preview. There's a tool that you can use to see what the Google search results page looks like anywhere in the world. So here I did Orange County, California, and this is what I got. So the question is, so the first thing we're going to look at the page and just tell everyone, you can see it, just tell me what you notice. Any insights, any observations? What's going on this page? Anything that you think that would be useful if you were helping Joseph write an ad that would get him business? Take a quick look. And Joseph, you can feel free to jump in too while I wait for other people to. If you have something to say, just type it in the questions box. So Larry notes it's all about the problem, not the solution. So I assume you're looking at floor wet, hot, here water running, water leak problems. So there's the two top ones are certainly problem-based. Then Linda notes there's very few ads that indicate where exactly they're located. So the first one has an address on Kensington Drive. There's another one on the right on North Kramer Place in Anaheim. There's a Mission Viejo, but a lot of them don't have geolocation. Okay. Tina notes not every site is for a servicer, meaning that some of them are what if they're not doing service? While I wait for that, Mukesh says, stop leak today. So it's basically the basic message here is, got a leak, we'll stop it. Okay, so there's some that are just informational. Looking for that. So, Tina, the organic ones. So over here, these are organic. Those are informational, but the ones up here and on the right, I see them as all offering a service. So they seem to be focusing on people who have repetitive leaks. Maybe it's a bigger job. Very few have phone numbers. Good. So the difference between the left and right columns is the ones on the left on the top are more expensive. Basically, you have to have a better performance and pay a little bit more for these up here than those over here. But they're all Google ads. Okay. So let's now burn that into your retina. So while we move forward onto the matrix. So this is the tool that I use and that I teach for understanding the Google search results page. And all it is, if you've ever gone to a fancy restaurant, in between meals, they sometimes bring out a little sorbet, a little sherbet, like a lemon ice, to cleanse your palate, so that you're able to fully taste the fish course without having the taste of the soup in your mouth. So the matrix is that. It's a way to, instead of trying to strategize and figure out what's going on, all I ask you to do is just tell me what you see. So there's no need for struggle here. There's no need for any sort of intellectual heavy lifting. It's simply observing, noticing what is. Because and the reason that's important is that we go through life with filters on, and our filters are based on what we need at that moment. So if I'm going AdWords, I'm thinking I need to make some money, I need to attract some customers, and I'm seeing everything through a very narrow filter. I'm going to miss things. So if we let go of all filters and just say, tell me what you see, we'll get a lot more input and a lot more valuable input than if we're trying to force it. So here I took the 5 competitors that I found interesting, the top 3, and then the first one on the right, and then the third one on the right, just to have something a little bit different. So there are 9 columns. The first one is the URL. That just identifies which ad it is. Second one is the offer. So let's just go through the first 3. So slableakpro.com, their offer is epoxy repair and free detection. And they got a bunch of features: detection, epoxy repair, restoration, and they had FAQ because they had all those site links, so they could put in extra text. Benefits here, it is cheap. It said, their description line was epoxy repair a fraction of the cost. So I'm going to give them cheap for that. No call to action. And the reason to believe is what gives them credibility. So there's credibility being in the first position at the very top. There's credibility having all those site links, and there's credibility having their address in that plus box. The big difference is that it's the biggest ad, and it has the best description of symptoms. Floor wet, hot, here water running. I left voice blank for all of these. It's more of an advanced technique that we're not going to get into right now, but extremely powerful. And keyword is just like, does the keyword appear in the ad, and if so, where and how much? So then the URL for the second one, jackstefan or Steven.com, their offer is emergency service. And their features are emergency, and it says service you can count on, so I turned that into dependable. I guess you could, if you want to work a little bit harder, you could say that the benefit of dependable is that you get what you're paying for, and you can be confident. But it didn't speak to me in a very clear way that you could translate that into a benefit. It wasn't that obvious. No call to action. No reason to believe that I saw. The big difference is it uses the word emergency. Emergency leak detection and repair. So there's an urgency to the word emergency. And there's the full keyword is in the description. Next one, restoremypipes.com. That one is fix slab leaks for good. So I have permanent fix. The features are don't dig or tear up the home, permanent, and it has epoxy liners. And their second description line is we don't dig or tear up your home. So that's a good sentence. That's a nice difference there. So the benefit is convenience as opposed to ripping everything out. The call to action, it says fix slab leaks for good. So there's actually a call to action word, a command noun. I forget what it's called. No reason to believe. The big difference here is it's no mess and it's easy because they're not going to dig or tear up your home. And so we could go through all of them that way. And basically what you see is pretty much the same thing. They're all kind of just saying, it's like the most obvious thing you could think of. If I asked you to write an ad for this and you didn't know anything about it, you could write these ads, right? So, I have a method of doing it. I'm dependable. I'm a good value for the price. I'm cheap. If you have an emergency, so the bottom one has the idea of same day, and it also has the only one with the phone number. As Nick noted, very few of them have phone numbers. So because it has a phone number and it says same day, I felt like there was a difference of instant gratification. Like, someone was going, someone's looking and they want something right away. Well, it's much easier to pick up the phone for a lot of people than to click and go to another website and read some more stuff. So you can see there's definitely differences, but generally there's nothing very exciting going on here, and it's all pretty obvious. So the next thing we're going to do is create an ideal customer avatar. And by avatar, I'm referring actually to the movie Avatar, where the humans are trying to finagle the mineral rights out of this foreign planet. And in order to do so, they have to kind of infiltrate and get to know the species that lives there, called the Na'vi, tall, sort of sexy blue humanoids. And so they have a technology where somebody can get into a pod and inhabit an avatar body, where they become one of these big blue Na'vi people. And they do that in order to basically understand how they think, what's important to them, so they can negotiate better for their rights. So that sounds a lot like empathy in marketing, where we want to get to know our prospects so we can sell them stuff, so we can fulfill our needs. I don't want to say at their expense, but we're thinking about our needs. So, but what happens in the movie is, without giving too much away, after living in their bodies, living in their civilization, really getting to understand them from the inside out, it turns out that he can't help but admire their culture, really begin to love their culture, and actually fall in love with the people and with one person in particular. He ends up being totally co-opted. And that's my wish for you as a marketer, where you go in and get to know your market so deeply that you fall in love with them. And everything you do becomes a means of sustainably servicing that market. And by sustainably, I mean you get paid enough to want to keep doing it. So, Joseph, we're gonna spend some time doing that right now. I will begin with a set of questions that I typically like to use. And at the same time as we're doing this, if folks could write in your own questions. If there's, as we go, each answer will trigger more things. we're going to create an imaginary friend, an imaginary prospect for you, Joseph. So the reason we're going to do this is if I tell me your demographics, you might say it's a homeowner in their mid-50s, right? Would that, or whatever. What's your demographic of your ideal prospect?
I would say a homeowner, 45 to 55.
Okay, so I wasn't too far off. So homeowner 45 to 55. So if you wanted to write an ad for homeowner 45 to 55, that's like writing a love letter to whom it may concern. So once we've actually collapsed all the possibilities into a real imaginary prospect, you'll see how things can become much more powerful. So let's start with, we've got our homeowner, age 45 to 55. Give that person a name, Joseph.
Denise Hillary.
Denise is her first name?
Yes.
Okay, excellent. And how old is Denise?
Denise is 50.
She is 50, exactly?
Mm-hmm.
So she
51, I'm sorry. 51.
She's 51. Okay, so she was born in 1961.
Correct.
Okay. I always like to do that. If someone tells me an age, then by giving them a birth year, I can kind of I can kind of tell like what they were listening to when they were 11. Somehow that begins to make it a little bit more real. So I'm assuming Denise is a woman.
Correct.
If it was a man, it would be named Denephew. So sorry about that. So what's her family status? Married, single, divorced, polyamorous? What?
She's divorced, mother of 2.
Okay. Divorced mother of 2. And how old are her kids?
One is 16 and one is 14.
Okay. Boy, girl?
Both daughters.
2 daughters. Okay. And what does she like to do when she's off work?
I would say a hobby is reading and cooking.
Okay, cooking. Tell me more about the cooking.
She's an extraordinary cook and loves being in the kitchen and whipping up delectable meals.
Okay. What does she do for a living?
She's an administrative secretary for a big oil refinery.
For what?
A big oil refinery.
Oil refinery.
Yeah, like ExxonMobil.
Okay, so she's someone's administrative assistant.
Yes.
Or executive. I guess executive secretary is a little higher status than an administrative assistant. Okay, and tell me about her house. Where does she live? What kind of house? How big? How long has she been there?
She's been there for roughly about 10 years. The home is approximately about 1,800 square feet.
Okay. And is the dad around? Is he in the picture at all?
No, he's not.
Okay, so she owns the home outright, or has the mortgage is in her name?
Yes.
So she's a executive secretary at an oil refinery. She loves to cook. Is there any conflict in her mind, like between sort of cooking? Is it like sort of healthy cooking? Does she like working for an oil refinery? Is she like in favor of oil and gas industry? Does she have any issues with that? Is she environmental at all?
No. Her passion really would be having her own business and being able to
cooking related?
Perhaps.
She's
I'm
not sure.
certain of that, but certainly it could be a possibility.
Okay. And when she was a kid, when she was, say, 10 or 11 or 12, at the height of her optimism, she probably didn't think she was going to be a secretary at an oil refinery. She had some other dream. What was it? What would she have dreamed of becoming or of doing at that point?
Oh, boy. That would be a tough one for me.
Okay, let's have somebody help out here. Somebody type in her unfulfilled childhood dream. And while we're waiting on that, who does she admire? Who's some public figure that most people have heard of? A celebrity, a movie star, politician, musician, author?
Oprah.
She likes Oprah?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And so she likes to read. What's she reading these days? If someone asked her to recommend a book, what would be the first thing that came out of her mouth?
Probably a book along the lines of self-empowerment.
Of what?
Self-empowerment.
Self-empowerment book. Okay, so like a self-help book.
Correct.
Okay. Pete and I were both thinking, please don't say 50 Shades of Grey. So Tina says that her unfulfilled childhood dream was to travel the world and experience the cuisine of all these different cultures. So when she was an early teen, let's say 14, and she had like a world history class, she had this dream of, like, with her two best friends traveling the world, spending like a month in Bali, a month in Italy. Like she totally grooves on Elizabeth Gilbert's Eat, Pray, Love. Like that was her dream, to just travel the world and experience the great cuisines of the world. And somehow that dream never came to fruition. She never managed to get 6 months away. And now having kids and a full-time job, working to pay this mortgage on this house, that's pretty much all she has. That dream has receded so far that it would actually be painful to think of it. Mm-hmm. Does that sound all right?
Yes.
Okay. So before we jump into specific questions about the search goal, what other questions do folks have? So I see Larry has a question particularly about the leak and her desire to fix it. What other questions do you have for Denise? And what I'd like you to do right now, while we're waiting for those to come in, Joseph, is indulge me and become Denise. So I want you to, if you're sitting down in front of a computer, I want you to imagine that you're Denise just at the point where she's ready to search. So she's sort of, mopped up the spill. Maybe she just sent the kids off to school. She just yelled at her youngest daughter for being clumsy, for spilling water on the floor, and then she had the daughter clean it up, and the daughter apparently did a bad job. And then they had some crosswords. She's out. The kids are out the door, and now she's home for another 10 minutes before she has to run off to work. And she notices that the spill wasn't cleaned up. So she's sort of muttering under her breath about her daughter, and she cleans it up herself, goes to get ready, and then 2 minutes later she sees there's water there again. And now she goes to do this search. So put yourself in her physical shoes. Like what are her hands doing? How is she dressed? Is she slumped back? Is she hunched forward? Are her brows furrowed? So sort of as best you can, become her. Become your avatar, just like in the movie. Notice your breathing. Mm-hmm. Notice how you give your weight to the chair. Are you sort of clenched or sort of down into it? And let's get questions for Denise. So Linda wants to know, Denise, what's your biggest fear about what you just discovered?
How bad is this? Where is it coming from?
All right, those are questions. What's behind the questions? What's the fear?
The fear is it's going to cost me a lot of money.
Yeah, has this, is this like one of those moments where you only realize later that this was like a turning point in your life? This is something I can't afford. This can't happen. Could this mean
at the wrong time? You expect problems, but all of a sudden it hit me, and I've just paid for my daughter to go to a summer camp, and I've just done this, and school's just started back, and I've got all these other expenses, and it's like, my God, I didn't expect this right now.
Yeah. So please let this not be what I think it might be. So Christian wants to know, how many times have you dealt with anything like this? Are you an old hand at, you understand that stuff happens to houses, and you're competent at dealing with it, or does this kind of freak you out?
No, I'm used to it because I also have a rental property, so I'm accustomed, or I understand that things go wrong, and at inopportune times, and this is one of them for me, and I know I have to deal with it because obviously we've mopped it up a few times, and it's there again, and so it's not going away.
Okay. Larry wants to know, would you ever attempt to try to fix this yourself, or maybe you have a friend who could do it, a boyfriend, or someone handy?
Yes, I do have a friend that could do it, and I'm certainly not handy, and I would certainly put a call in to him.
Okay. Other questions from folks? So while we're waiting, I'm going to go to one of my stock questions at the bottom there. What would it mean to you if this meant that your floors had to be ripped out?
I'd be terrified of it because I just remodeled my kitchen, and the last thing I want to do is have to tear up my floor.
You just remodeled your kitchen. Are you thinking maybe the idiot who did your plumbing is at fault?
No.
You're not suspicious of that?
No, because everything that was done from the floor and up, not below the floor.
Okay. So what kind of floor do you have that's getting wet? What's it made of?
It's a ceramic, I wouldn't say ceramic, but like a stone, like a travertine stone.
Okay. So is there any, are you worried about the floor getting ruined if you don't take care of this right away?
Yeah, what's going to happen is if I ignore it, eventually the stone is going to start coming loose. Drought will start loosening, and then I've got even a bigger mess.
Okay. Are you worried at all? Thanos wants to know if you're worried at all about the safety, if you have a consistently wet floor, a stone wet floor in a kitchen.
Yeah, there's a possibility of slipping. Absolutely.
Okay. So Nancy wants to know, are you concerned that maybe you'd ask your boyfriend and he would just make it worse?
Well, he's, I'd say not 100 miles away, but he's a long ways away, and so I can certainly talk to him, and he can give me some pointers as to, what to look for, what to do in the interim, and if it's a big enough job, then it probably would warrant him coming out to take a look at it.
Okay. So there's no more questions coming from, so Michael wants to know, is there a possibility of mold? Are you concerned that the air quality might be compromised in your house?
Not at this time, no.
Okay. And Denise knows that, right? Denise, this isn't Joseph speaking. It's Denise saying, I'm not worried about that.
Yeah, because it's in the middle of the kitchen, so it's not up against the wood or anything, and so your mold is, in most cases, that's going to happen in an area close to the wood right away. Okay.
Yeah, and are you in an area where there's drought or expensive water or rationing, or is the wasting of the resource bothering you?
Not really. We're kind of in a drought, but no, that's the least of my concern right now. My main concern is, how big is this, and getting it taken care of, and getting back to normal.
Okay, great. So I want to dig a little bit deeper because I feel we've got a lot, but sometimes it's like drilling for oil. You don't know what you're going to get until you just you can just drill a lot of holes, and most of them don't pan out, but one of them will be a gusher. So I'm curious about your divorce, Denise. How long ago was it? You said 10 years?
Actually, about 11 years ago.
11 years ago. So the girls were 5 and 3.
Correct.
What happened?
I always felt kind of like their dad and I were never really compatible, and for whatever reason, I thought that eventually it would work out. It would work out, and it never did. We were at odds. We didn't appreciate one another, and it's to the point where we were both miserable, and so it's better to be alone than be with the wrong one.
And was it a nasty process? That splitting up?
There were times where there was a lot of friction there. Emotions ran pretty high, and I just kept telling myself that didn't make sense, and we don't need. We're both okay people, and but we're not okay for one another.
And you said he's not in the picture at all. So is he in another state, another country?
Yeah, he's in another state.
So does he see his daughters?
Not often, but maybe a few times a year.
Okay. And what did you have to self-develop after you split up and were a single parent? Were there things where you kind of relied on him, and then you had to take up the slack? What was that like?
I don't remember exactly because it's something that I knew that the place that I was so bad for me that whatever place I would end up would be better than my current situation, and so I was just prepared to deal with it, knowing that I would have to have sitters for the kids, and he wouldn't be there to pick them up and do that. And he was there for initially like the first year, and then after we relocated, then it was just basically my getting support from family to help out with the kids.
All right, so you kind of grew imperceptibly to the point where you became competent. You could kind of do it all.
Yes.
I'm curious about working this job as an executive assistant, loving to cook, having 2 teenage daughters. Are you like Superwoman, or you feel like exhausted all the time? Like where are you in terms of like the way you would describe to yourself how in control you are of your life?
I definitely feel like I'm Superwoman because I have to not only is my job very taxing, but the daughters are very busy in school, and so they require after-school activities and part-time jobs and running them there, picking them up for there.
Okay. So do you feel like you have time? Do you feel like you have time for yourself?
Not very much.
No. So Michael has some interesting questions here about: Are you concerned about losing time from work to deal with this?
A little bit, because my boss has been away for a while and on vacation. Now he's back, and so there's a lot of things that needs to be addressed, and so I definitely need to be there.
Yeah. So I'm getting the picture of a woman who's highly competent and yet everything is on her shoulders. And this is one more thing that could be on her shoulders, and she doesn't have the skill set or the time or the interest to deal with it, but she has to.
Absolutely.
Okay.
So,
wonderful question from Christian. If you didn't have to fix this problem and you had some extra money, what would you do with it? If you had a little windfall, where would you spend it?
On myself, and go on a nice getaway.
Okay, a couple days away, leave the kids with a aunt or grandma.
Yes.
Okay, so I feel like we have enough to put the avatar next to the search results page, and go about sort of writing some ads. But before we do that, what I'd like you to do is, and everyone can do this. We're just going to take like 90 seconds. 90 seconds of dead air on a webinar. I hope that's okay. Is to write a diary entry about this search. So as if Denise is sitting at the keyboard ready to type in the keyword, and instead of that, you push the keyboard out of the way, give her a pencil and a pad of paper, and say, write in your diary what you're feeling about this right now. Dear diary, you could start it, I can't believe that, or, oh my gosh, I really wish that, or what I need right now is, and describe the problem you want to solve, the feeling you want to get rid of, and what you really want to have happen at the end. I really wish that. If only I could find. So let's have everybody be Denise right now and write for 90 seconds just some words, phrases, concepts, ideas, notions of what she would be feeling that would go in her personal diary that no one would ever see except her. So take 90 seconds now, and I will not hum, just to give you an extra head start. All right, finish up. Another 15 seconds. All right, and pencils down. So anyone who's got something you want to type into the question box. Joseph, do you have something you could read out to us?
Yes. Basically.
Nice and loud.
Yes, I really wish I could just call John, and if he would just take the time to come and take care of this for me now, I would really appreciate it, because I know, one, he wouldn't take advantage of me, and two, I can trust him that it would be done the right way.
Okay, great. Anybody else have something that you want to share? We can add to this diary entry. Dear diary, says Michael, I can't believe I've got another problem to deal with. This will not only mess up my budget, it will take time from my job. Pete, I can't believe this got so much to do. Got to pull myself together and find someone who's reliable and can get here fast. So we can see there's actually, these guys have a slightly different avatar in mind than you do, Joseph. They're seeing her as someone a little more frazzled and vulnerable than I think you are. Your responses are, so, oh, she can handle this. She wishes she had more time, more resources, more money, but she's fine. They're hearing someone, close to the breaking point.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, of course, we made her up, right? So these are interesting things to consider. And, you know your market, you know the people you deal with. So, I would trust your intuition. But play with the idea that when people are talking to you, they pulled themselves together. And maybe this was a bigger emotional thing than they let you see. So while we're waiting for any others, I just want to go back to this page and have everybody with Denise in mind. And we've really gotten pretty deep into Denise right now. With her in mind, what do you see on this page? Is anyone talking to Denise? Is anyone saying anything that connects with what Denise really cares about, what she worries about, what she really wants, what she needs? Do you see any ads that if you were Denise would make you say, this person understands? So, and again, Joseph, you can just respond out loud. Other people can type in. Jim says they're all generic, non-emotional types of ads. I'm looking for any emotion words here. The closest I see is service you can count on, an emergency. So Jack Stefan, or Stephen, is really the only one who's using any trigger words that would connect with someone who is emotional. So that's the second one. Pete, the second one from the top mentions emergency, service you can count on. So there's the two. That's a decent couple of lines where it says, the problem is an emergency, and the solution is you can count on. So from dependable solution to an emergency. Anything else? So Thanos likes, we won't dig or tear up your home. So that is a feeling of, that's a good line, because maybe Denise didn't know that was what could happen and that others would do it. So by saying that, you make a distinction that, well, other people will dig up, tear up your floor. We won't do that. Let's see what else people do. So Linda likes the we don't dig or tear up your home, I think, or if you see the epoxy repair, where something promises to be much easier than I think it might be. But basically, what we're looking at here is, we're really putting this under the microscope to try to find ads that echo the emotional trauma that can come from this, or just the deep feelings that go into this. This isn't a search for paper clips. This is something that's serious and can have serious ramifications. So what I'd like to do now is, so Joseph's the only one on the audio, but arguably, Joseph, you're the last one who should be writing these ads, because you're too in it. So I'm going to ask everyone else now to take what you know about Denise and seeing what's missing. If you were to write an ad for Joseph's business, what would you say to Denise? And you can come up, I think the best way to do this is to come up with lines. Like Nancy had one line that she wrote down earlier that actually was exactly the same thing that I wrote down, in quotes, "I don't have time for this," as a headline. So you can come up with headlines, things in quotes. If you want to come up with a URL, like, leakyslabnobigdeal.com, something like that, just take a couple of minutes now and see what you can come up with in terms of copy for some of these ads. So again, take a minute, or just, I'll read them as they come up. So Tina has worry-free, affordable leak detection and repair. So the idea of worry-free, it might be a bit too much of a leap for someone. But it's certainly something I would try, and try to, to put the word worry in there, because worry is certainly going to be on their mind. Is your water bill rising unexplainably? That would be a great ad for someone who's not doing a search. If, once they're searching for leak detection and repair, they already kind of know they have a problem. Matt says, has the word pricey. Worried about pricey pipe repair? So, and he's got worried. So worried and pricey connects with Denise's concept of, boy, is this, I just spent a lot of money, and I'm worried about how much more this is going to cost. Could that summer camp that I just paid for have been a mistake? Could that have been irresponsible of me? All right. One thing we haven't talked about is magical thinking, or ironic thinking, where, if you feel like, well, I just paid the last payment on my car, so obviously that's when it breaks. So does she have any sort of ironic or magical thinking about this? Like this was some sort of punishment, or it had to happen this way because I just, I just got a raise, and so that's where it goes. I just got a bonus, and so obviously, the universe is going to slap me with this before I can enjoy it. Okay, I have to fix my leak now. From Mukesh, a 3-year warranty. So Herman says nobody here is guaranteeing their work. So that would be a really powerful, remember that those 4 different levels, that would be a very powerful strategic level to say, I'm going to offer a guarantee, whereas nobody else is talking about one. Dealing with a leak. So dealing, that's I don't know if that minimizes it or it makes it feel, I rolled up my sleeves like I'm competent and I just need a little bit of help. Leak detection service you can trust. Leaking and slippery floors, we fix it right way, unless you want to do a dance floor. Not sure what that means, but it's funny. Unexplained moisture on the floor, afraid of the source. Get leak source for fast detection and service. Larry has a nice sentence. We put water back in the pipes without ripping up your floors. So a riff on we don't dig or tear up your home. Nancy is dealing with a destructive leak. So it's not just a leak now, it's destructive. Emergency leak problem, quick detection, cost-efficient solution. Just remodeled your house, all leaks detected and remedied by workmen you can get along with. You don't have to attack that leak alone. Nancy has one, that was from Tina. Nancy has 20 years experience. So there's one there that mentions their experience in business since 1986. I don't know where it went. I saw it a minute ago. Oh, so yeah, affordable plumber, Coast Plumbing. No more toilet flushing tomorrow. So that's bringing up another possible issue. Payment plan. Jim has one. Leak, last thing you needed. Get it repaired. Fast, done right, and won't hurt your pocketbook with a phone number. So so people are definitely getting more into the emotions. But so what would you write if you knew that she liked Oprah? Like, I like using personalities and people or books to come up with something that I would never have thought of otherwise. What about 50 Shades of Leaking? Something about, well, what would you come up with for Oprah? I'm trying to think. I'm drawing a blank right now, but it seems like there should be something. Something about a leak book club, I'm striking out here. What else did we say about her? So she's got 2 kids. So, something about safety, something about that conversation that she had where she accused her daughter of making a spill, it's like that scene from Fantasia where the brooms keep appearing even though, you chop them up and they just come back more and more. So something like magically out of control. Spills magically reappearing. Don't blame your kids. Blame the San Andreas fault. I don't know if any of these are caused by earth tremors. All right, why do the pipes leak? Is it ever earth tremors, Joseph?
No. It happens, but it's rare. Mainly, this is the cause of soil and the type of plumbing that's used and the workmanship at the time of installation.
Okay, so it happens because something was not done right before?
In most cases, when you're doing slab plumbing, what you're doing is you're using tubing, and that tubing is a copper tubing. So if the installer is unrolling the tubing and he's doing it where it's all about speed, then a lot of cases he'll have a kink, and the kink is going to restrict the flow of water, which is also going to create turbulence because as the water is flying around the kink, it's creating the turbulence, which is turbidity, and that a lot of
okay. So long story short, there's something they did that they could have done better.
Yes.
Okay, so a headline could read, honestly, leaking slab, don't call the folks who caused it. Right? Slab repair specialists. Take our time, do it, fix it right. So Larry's got a fun one. Don't be the next guest on the Springer Show. Call the experts to repair the leak now.
I like it.
So please restore your self-confidence. Get it fixed now. Your boys are fighting each other. Deal with them. We fix the leak. Something like, are you doing it all? Let us handle this. Right? You're shouldering everything. Take care of this with one phone call. This is how Superwoman handles a leak. Superwoman calls us for leaks so she can continue saving the world. Something like that. So, Joseph, are you getting a sense of the different angles you could take here?
Well, certainly, and the biggest is the fact that I think that the biggest the ad from an emotional point of view. In other words, trying to hone in on how they're feeling that's going to make them gravitate toward your ad versus the competitors that are all saying the exact same thing that has no emotional appeal whatsoever. Right.
And we know this happens because most people, when they do a Google search, will click something within a couple of seconds. It means they didn't speed read the whole page and evaluate everything. Something tugged at them emotionally in their limbic system before they even had a rational response to it. And so we don't have to go overboard. I like going overboard just to make the point, but some of these ads that were very, very sort of like the word dealing that Nancy came up with, that could be the word that makes someone feel comfortable. Or the word worried, or don't worry, or relax. Imagine, there's lots of power words emotional words. The word relax in here, I think, would be very powerful. And of course, there's also the strategic aspect of positioning yourself as this is what we do. We're not general plumbers. We're the guys who fix what other plumbers screw up. We're the plumber doctors. We're the plumber surgeons. So then that would be a strategic approach as opposed to an emotional one. But like I said, because of the avatar work, the emotions tend to rise up during this kind of work. So, Joseph, thank you so much for playing. I hope you got some good stuff, and if you weren't taking notes fast. Thank you, everybody, for. There's another one from Michael. Not seen on Oprah. Leak problem solutions. And then Herman has referred to the go-to guys. And superheroes call us. So I like that. So one thing that people often say after experiencing this, and is they come down to earth and they go, wait a minute, Joseph, you just made all this up. There is no Denise. She's not real. And therefore, what possible applicability does this have? Who's to say that it's a divorced woman with 2 kids in an 1,800 square foot house? Who's to say it isn't, a 33-year-old man with no kids or whatever? And so there's a lot of truth in that, and I want to respond with 3 points. So yes, we made up Denise, and I helped you make her up, and but there's probably a lot of truth in what you have said. First of all, because human nature is human nature. Second, because you know your customers, and this is actually a way, by giving her a name, you're actually not creating anything new. You're just sort of distilling all your experience, all your intuition, all the things that you don't have words for, that you kind of know on a level where you can't always reach them. It bubbles them up. And so it's actually a representation of everything you know about your market. And a lot of it has to get truncated because she doesn't represent everyone, but there's some core truths that generally this work will reveal to you. Second thing is, if you don't go for it, remember we were saying a 45 to 55-year-old homeowner. Everybody else on that page was marketing to the 45 to 55-year-old homeowner. And so they're all mediocre. They can't say anything specific. As I said, it's like writing a love letter to whom it may concern. You can't touch someone emotionally if you don't know or don't try to know who they are. And third, we don't care if you got it wrong, because with AdWords you can test it cheaply, quickly, write a couple ads, throw them up, do some tests, and for $30, $40 we could find which of these really resonates, which of these is going to be. Some of them will be worse. It'll be like the Scarlett O'Hara's boyfriend on a motorcycle. She might be totally turned off. But some of them will be clearly better. So that is an introduction to Checkmate. And it's just one small node, the ads themselves. But when you go through this process for everything, for ads, for landing pages, for phone follow-up, for email follow-up, for every part of your message, what you end up with is you get a higher click-through rate, which means you get a higher visitor value because you're sending more of the right people to your website, and so therefore each click costs you less. You're generating more, and you're having a lower cost per lead and per sale, which means higher profits, which means you can test faster. The more money you have going in, the more clicks you can buy. You can be higher up on that page, and you can advertise for keywords that might be too expensive for other people, and you'll continue learning. And so it becomes a virtuous cycle for you, a vicious cycle for your competitors. So that and the idea of positioning is why I call this Checkmate. So with that, I would like your opinion, your permission for a couple of minutes to just tell you about the course that's coming up. If you found this useful, this is, as I said, a small fraction of what we cover in the 7-week online virtual camp Checkmate. So it starts November 6th. It's on Tuesdays. This time, so 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern, and then again at 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern. So I know a lot of people can only make, one or the other. People take this course from all over the world, so I do it twice to increase your ability to participate. And I call it 7 weeks that will totally transform your business. And I hear this again and again from people who go through these exercises deeply. They suddenly have a way of messaging, of coming up with creative, meaningful things to say on all levels that make marketing so much easier, so much more meaningful, and so much more powerful. So the details are, if you ever heard the term flipped classroom, it means instead of getting lectured during live classes, like kind of this was a little bit of lecture-y, and it was somewhat interactive, but not that much. All the material that I present in terms of data dump is you watch that and read it on your own time. So that's how you get the knowledge. And so you don't have to come to a webinar and, when I do webinars and I'm just teaching with slides, half the people I can tell are like checking Facebook, on email, just because whatever I'm saying is not the most important thing in the world to them at that moment. Or I'm going too fast and they're frustrated. Or I'm going too slow for them and they're frustrated. This way you get to pause, rewind, watch it twice, fast forward, skip things that already make sense. And so the flipped classroom idea is to increase not the amount of time we spend together, but the efficiency of how you learn the information. The second part is you're going to get homework, 2 different types. One is like practicing, so we would all work on the business like Joseph's, and you'd practice writing your ads, you'd practice creating the avatar, practice checkmating, and that gives you mastery. And once you've got that, you then homework to implement it in your own business. So it's not going to be busy work, it's actually you doing the marketing work that's important. And third part is tumblers, live classes where we are going to be interactive and engaged. So instead of just Joseph doing this, everyone's going to be working in small groups, in breakout sessions, me giving feedback, you giving feedback to each other, and going far deeper into the avatar and into all the different aspects than we could do in a setting like this. Because you're not going to master something by just listening to it. So the people who took the time to ask questions, who actually wrote out the questions in the question box for Denise, the people who typed in ads, who actually gave us phrases, those are the people who've made the most progress. They've done something on a cellular level to get better at this. And so, the model is, I don't want you to just learn stuff that's just going to be like, high school. You're going to wrestle with this to attain mastery. So the syllabus is 7 weeks, 7 different parts. And I'm going to quickly go over each one because a number of people told me after they saw this that they read the whole sales letter and they thought that the course was the same as this one webinar. And so I realized I wasn't clear enough. So the matrix is that 9-columned worksheet, and we're going to go into everything about it into much greater detail. The idea of voice, that column that I didn't have time for, it really deserves a good half hour on its own because we didn't talk about how to write ads in voice. But the matrix is basically a way of quickly understanding the competitive landscape, knowing what people are saying, knowing what they're offering, what they're not offering, and just doing that matrix a couple of times, you will start to see opportunities without even doing anything else. So then week 2, we're going to really work on your avatar. You're going to flesh it out much deeper than we did Denise. We're going to play games together, a game called Press Conference, that in groups of 3 or 4, you'll work with each other to develop an avatar that, and somebody said to me at one of the live trainings, this is the first time I feel like I've ever met my customer. And it just makes everything easier. Then week 3, we're going to look at triggers and headlines. Triggers are search triggers. So in this case, the search trigger is pretty clear. Someone wipes up the spill and 2 minutes later it's back. So we know what that is. But there's a lot of, think about your business. What makes somebody search? What happened in the 7 seconds before they did that search that triggered it? Was it something they saw, something that happened, something they thought, something they read? Was it finding out bad news about someone else that they felt like they had to take care of something? We don't wake up in the morning and write down in our calendars, 11:18 a.m., search Google for leaks, slab leak. Things happen, and then we search. So when you understand the triggers and the different types of triggers, there are 3 main types of landing page headlines, and each one is predicated on a particular type of trigger. So we're going to go into detail into what those types are, when to use them, and you're going to get templates. It really is kind of plug and play at first to get the hang of it, and then of course you're going to make it your own and be original with it. But the landing page headline is the most important thing on the landing page, because that determines instantly whether someone says, yes, I belong here, and I will continue engaging on this page. So week 4 is about fears and objections. And most of us are taught in business that objections are things to be overcome. When you're doing search marketing, though, every keyword, when you decompress it, not only has desires, it also has inherent objections. It also has, so Denise already has things that she is scared of, things she doesn't want to happen. And they're all based on her past experiences or past experiences that have been told to her by others. So she's got a whole host of triggers that come from her past that she's bringing into the present. And she will not buy until she has resolved them. So week 4, we're going to do an exercise called Dear Dr. Freud that is going to lay bare your avatar's hidden objections, the ones they're not even aware of. And you're going to be able to then understand them and market appropriately. So the first step in overcoming objections is not overcoming them. It's eliciting them, hearing them, exploring them, and helping your prospect explore them, because those are the underlying fears that are going to immobilize them unless they get dealt with. Week 5 is then how to deploy testimonials as anti-objection machines. So once we have those objections out in the open, I'm going to show you how to craft testimonials. And by craft, I don't mean make it up. But when people are honestly pleased with your work and they're willing to say something that could go public on a website, in an email, how you help to craft that so that it answers the objection. Most testimonials are pretty tepid. They're like, oh, it's great. Joseph's Plumbing Service was great. I loved it. They were professional. But the person, Denise, who's typing at that moment, is in a state of doubt. And so we need to craft testimonials that reflect that state of doubt. And I'll show you how to do that in week 5. Week 6, you can see already, is just after a short exercise, we have a ton of different things we can test. And if you don't have a testing plan, a protocol for when to test, what to test, why to test, how to test, you're going to be overwhelmed. So week 6 is very important, showing you how to most efficiently test everything so that you learn more from your tests than any of your competitors will learn from theirs. And finally, for week 7, we're going to do something called 80-20 Checkmate or quick and dirty Checkmate. This is great for consultants. And I developed this because when I do Checkmate, I go through somebody's business. It'll take me several hours. And very often people who want this help can't afford to pay for several hours from me. So I came up with a way to do it in about 10 minutes. And it's not great. It is great. It's not perfect. It's not going to give you everything, but it'll give you about 80% for 20% of the effort. So we're going to learn the 80-20 Checkmate process. And so I have a boring guarantee, which is if you're not happy at any point, just let me know and I'll give you all your money back, because this offer obligates me, not you, because I don't know if this is right for you. I don't know if the setup is right. I don't know if the topics will be right. So the only way that I can, in good conscience, sell this, and this is my hard sell, I can sell it this hard, is to say if I'm wrong, you've lost nothing. Your time will not be refunded, but everything else will. And so for you to take me up on that, all you got to do, you have to show up, participate, be open to new ideas, and be willing to share ideas with others. That's really important. Is the importance of generosity and sharing, because I don't have a lot of the answers. You heard me foundering, trying to figure out something to say about Oprah, and then somebody else came up with something much better than I did. And that's what happens in mastermind situations. So you have to be willing to contribute your energy to that mastermind. So people have liked this. Perry Marshall experienced a breakthrough when I did this at his mastermind group. Everyone that almost everyone experienced a breakthrough. Drayton Bird had me over in London at the beginning of the month to teach this to his students. Almost childishly simple, but hugely effective. Thank you, Drayton. The most profound exercise I've ever done to understand my customer client, come up with ways to market specifically to them. So I'm going to skip through the rest of these because my hope is that the experience you've had gives you a glimpse of the potential and the power of it. So I originally priced this at $9.97, the same as the low-end early bird of a live 2-day Camp Checkmate where you fly somewhere and spend 2 days in a hotel conference room. But I really, I got 2 weeks left. I would really love to finish filling all the seats. And so I'm going to continue an early bird special of 3 monthly payments of $197 for a total of $591. And I'm not going to give you any bonus ebooks, PDFs, old MP3s, just slapping, finding things in my hard drive and slapping a price on it, and because I want you to stay focused on Checkmate. I don't want you to, go through 4,000 pages of good stuff, but things that are not completely relevant. My goal here is to give you as little as possible and make it work as hard as possible for you. So if you're in a competitive market, if doubling your sales will be worth more than $591, because doubling your sales is pretty much what I would expect to happen, and that's obviously from the channels in which you use Checkmate. You have to be willing, as I said, to give and receive feedback. You have to be available on Tuesdays, either or both. You can show up for both. I don't care. 1 p.m. or 8 p.m. Eastern Time. And you really have to be fascinated by human nature. So if you have been listening to this and you're rolling your eyes and saying, this is such a load of hooey, then this is not for you. I appreciate you're hanging on this long, but let's not kid ourselves. So I do have to offer a couple of bonuses for people who sign up off of this call. Just because it makes people sign up after the call. So 2 things that make sense to do after we finish the 7 weeks, and we'll be doing this in January after the Christmas break, is how to craft your unique selling proposition naturally. So I don't know if you've heard people talk about unique selling proposition. I've always found it frustrating because they'll point to some great examples like Domino's Pizza, 30 minutes or less, fresh and hot, or it's free, or FedEx, and it absolutely positively has to be there overnight. And then I try to shoehorn my business into something like that, and it doesn't fit. It feels very synthetic. It feels fake. But after 7 weeks of Checkmate, your USP, once you start looking for it, will come bubbling up. So Joseph, after going through all this process, will begin to see a quick line that will describe him in a way that says, I do something different than anybody else, and it will be something that Denise will find instantly appealing. And we couldn't do that today, Joseph. We couldn't come up with it today. It would be forced. But after 7 weeks, we can. And the second one is, I mentioned at the beginning, visionary business improvement. That suppose you write an ad that's actually better than what you do, and because you brainstorm, hey, Denise would love this. We come, we fix her slab, we cook her dinner, we give her a new stove, and we take her kids to Disneyland, right? And, brainstorming is fun, but generally that's not going to be economically feasible. But maybe, you could figure out something like, we're going to bring dinner. Maybe you have a caterer who could, set up a picnic in the backyard while you work on the kitchen flooring. So, something could work, and you might say, oh, that'd be fun. And then you say, oh, but we don't actually do that. Well, so in the last module, we'll look at what could you actually do that would make you so remarkable you wouldn't even need to advertise, that people would just talk about you. And that's what I call visionary business improvement. So, and if you sign up today, I want to give you 3 months of support. So after the course ends, there's a secret Facebook group where you can post your questions and problems, and people can respond, and I can respond. And we'll have an additional coaching call, 1 per month. And this is not me preparing anything. This is me showing up on the phone with open mic and people just asking questions. If you're a consultant and you're doing this for multiple clients, you might want to come if you have a new client that you're not sure how to approach this with. We'll all help you. And that will be an additional 3 months to make sure that you guys are masters. So campcheckmate.com should redirect to the right place. I am so grateful that first of all, for Joseph for taking the time and putting your business on the line and being in the hot seat and letting us play. And I'm grateful to everyone who showed up today. A lot of people have stayed on for the whole thing, which I'm grateful for. I hope you can hear in my voice that I love doing this, and I find it exciting. I find human beings fascinating. I find empowering small businesses really wonderful. I think kind of, the world is going to pot because of too many big businesses that have streamlined everything to the point of no longer caring. And I think our communities need excellent small businesses to stay resilient. And I love that this work helps people connect with their markets, that this becomes a matter of love and service. And the fact that you signed up for this webinar means that I get to do this, do something I love. And for those of you who sign up for Virtual Camp Checkmate, that means that I get paid for doing it, which is a very humbling thing and a great honor. And so I just want to echo my gratitude at the ability to share this and the opportunity. So thank you all very much. I'm going to say you can go, if you have a question about the course itself, why don't you hang on, type it in the question box, and I can answer it or unmute you. But for everyone who's just been hanging out to get this information, that's it. I hope you sign up. I would love to keep working with you on all these other cool things. But that's it. If you have questions, hang on, type them in. Everyone else, thank you. I have another one tonight in about 7 hours at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific, and it will be totally different. So if you want some more, you can join me there. Otherwise, thank you all, and have a great day. So I see a question about, is this great training not just for AdWords, but for other types of business development? I like to think so. I use AdWords just because it's an easy way to test. But I've taught this to people who didn't know what AdWords was, and they had a business they were struggling to market. And it's great for people who sell a solution, but they haven't really articulated the problem that people are facing. So this is great for people who are like coaches, massage therapists, energy workers, people who do something where like this is a great solution in search of a problem. Checkmate gives people the vocabulary and the niche sensitivity to identify those problems, and then be able to respond not with, hey, I do this thing, but hey, I can help you with your problem. So great question. Mark wants to know about breakout sessions. How does that work in a virtual environment? It's really cool. There's a piece of software, a service out there called, what's it called? Maestro Conference, that actually allows audio breakouts. So I hit a button and everybody's in a group of 4. And I tried this 2 years ago, and maybe somebody on this call remembers it. I screwed up the settings, and it turns out that I was talking in one group, but everybody could hear me in all the other groups. I've learned how to do it, so now it's a really powerful tool to put everyone in small groups, bring them back together. It extends what you. I was so happy when I discovered it because it extends what I'm able to do on a webinar into much more of a real life live situation. Someone wants to know, Mark, my business doesn't naturally lend itself to online advertising. Can we use this for people who don't know they need my service? Absolutely, but we can't do it on a keyword basis then. We have to approach their approach differently. We have to say, well, someone who doesn't know they need my service. So Mark, if you want to tell me what your service is, what your business is, I can try to use that as an example. But let's say Joseph does slab repair, but no one realizes that water on the floor means that they have to get their slab repaired. Maybe they just think it's something weird or something biblical happening, and he has to explain to them. So then you start with the presenting symptom. You start by explaining to people how they know they need you. You take their symptom and you put it in context. And in fact, that's for week number 3, triggers and headlines. The trigger, in this case, is not a search trigger, but it's should be a search trigger if they only knew. So that will apply very much. Any other questions? Just type them in. All right, everyone seems to be steady state. So again, campcheckmate.com. I would love to see you on the other side. And with that, I guess I'm going to go have lunch. And Larry signed up. Thank you so much for signing up. The Facebook page is not up yet. No, I have 2 weeks. As long as my slab doesn't start leaking, I should have plenty of time. Sure thing. All right. Well, this is feels like the party that doesn't know how to end. So I still want to be here in case folks have questions. I'll tell you what. If you're sort of browsing through the sales letter and you have questions, I'm at Howie@askhowie.com. Feel free to email me. I'm happy to sit and talk with you privately for a few minutes to see if this is right for you. I'm really good at talking people out of paying me money. So if I try to talk you into it, it's because I really believe it will help. So Howie@askhowie.com if you want to schedule a quick chat to see if this would be right for you. Will it be a good fit for a website design business? So Eric, you want to know, you have a business that you do website design. Well, let's imagine that we went to Google and someone did a search for website design. Well, they would see what? They would see a bunch of ads that are all saying, "We design your website." I don't know. Let's think about what sorts of things they'd be saying. I doubt anyone would have gone through this process to think about, well, who wants a website? What does it mean to them? What are they scared of? What's the rap about website designers that they might have heard of and you might need to position against? So there's, website design could be tightly niched. And I'll say a quick word about this. So I'm really into a type of sort of gardening and saving the world called permaculture. And what I've learned from all this gardening and permaculture and observing nature and observing biology is that nature competes very differently than businesses compete. Businesses tend to go head to head, and you've got Coke and Pepsi, and you've got 3 pizza parlors, and they're like ramming their heads against each other, like like rams, which I guess is in nature. But I guess within a single species, there is some of that, trying to draw blood. But the way nature competes is through speciation, specialization, and tight niching. So that two birds develop different types of beaks so they don't compete for the same flower. And so that, one of the best things about competition is that it can compel you to find a niche. So website for whom? Maybe you do website for dentists or website for plumbers who do leak and slab repair. Or maybe you pitch it for website for people who don't know how to use computers, and you make it really, really simple. Or websites for e-commerce. So there's lots of strategic ways to pitch it. We could certainly go through the emotional ways that we looked at here. So I'm not sure if that answers your question, but I think if you go do a search for website design or whatever your main keyword is, and you have the same experience as we did, then I believe that the Checkmate is going to be a big help. All right, you're welcome, Eric. So anything else? Anybody else? Anybody want to say hello? Is there anybody on the call who has taken a Camp Checkmate, who attended one of my live ones? I mostly only see first names, so I can't tell. Karen, is that you? Yeah. Do you want maybe it'd be helpful, Karen? Would you be willing to say what you experienced and the good, the bad, and the ugly, and maybe not mention that that call in which I talked over everybody? All right, let me see if I can figure out how to unmute you. Karen is awesome. Karen scares me because she works with chainsaws. Hello, Karen.
Hi, Howie. Are you home now? Are you back?
I am.
Cool. Cool.
Yeah, I'm back. I'm back from South Africa.
Good.
Yeah. So, give us the scoop. You know, I'm running around like crazy, trying to find all my handouts, but so I don't exactly know how it was. What can you tell people as honestly as possible about the live one, at least?
The live one was a fabulous exercise. What was it? Friday, Saturday, a little bit of Sunday. I thought the people there were interesting. It gave me a lot of insight into other people's business models, business challenges, how they were doing their thing. The fact is, I have been medically unable to implement anything I learned thanks to, or as later diagnosed by Dr. Yannick, which is a whole nother long story. So I can't say that as a testimonial. I can say the class was fabulous and engaging and eye-opening, and I have not been able to do anything with it. So I can't swear to its benefit business-wise.
Okay, that's good. But it was not a complete and utter waste of time.
No, I met Mike Marshall, and I've worked with him since. And I'm trying to think of who else. There was the guy with the videos who had an interesting problem. I think he could have done more, but he wasn't.
Yeah, you know what? You bring up a good point that I've completely neglected to mention, which is arguably the best part is the networking you'll be doing, and the business associates and friends you will make because it's set up for lots and lots of interaction. So, I feel like, Henry Kissinger has got this club where he just charges people exorbitant amounts of money to sit in the same room and have dinner with each other, and they all go because Henry Kissinger organized it,
And anybody he knows is going to be worth knowing.
Right. And the truth is that the people who end up attending these are very interesting people.
I thought so. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you. We'll have to catch up sometime. And everybody else, if there are any other questions, Karen has experienced the live one, and what I've tried to do with the online course is to take as much as I can of the live experience, the interaction. And obviously, it's not exactly the same. There's an energy when you're in the room together that you can't duplicate virtually. But there's also a sense of that those 2 days live is a lot of stuff to assimilate. And there's ways in which 7 weeks spread apart is actually going to take more because, it could grow, the oak tree grows slowly and it puts down a deep root. The birch grows quickly, but it gets knocked over more easily. So this is my attempt at creating an oak tree. All right, well, that's it for me. So Joseph, thank you, and Karen, thank you for jumping in. And hope to see you, some of you on the course. Take care.
Thank you, Howie.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.